Our F1 driver ratings for the
United States
Grand Prix.
This video is sponsored by the wonderful people over at Squarespace.
Now, we're going to dive straight into our first driver, Kevin Magnussen, who started the sprint in 8th, finished the sprint in 7th, started the main race in 8th, and finished 11th. I am going to go for an 8 out of 10 for Kevin Magnussen. This is a much better performance from K-Mag. He was there in the mix of things throughout the weekend, really. A shame, obviously, to finish 11th in the main race, but still bringing some points in for Haas.
I have gone for a 7 out of 10 for K-Mag. Brilliant in the sprint, bagged some points, of course. Didn't quite go to plan in the main race, despite him obviously being ahead of Nico Hülkenberg in qualifying. But unfortunate just to miss out on points, but yeah, he is doing a much more solid job.
The fans gave Kevin Magnussen a 7. Nico Hülkenberg started the sprint in 6th, finished 8th, started the main race in 11th, and finished 8th.
I have gone for an 8 out of 10 for Nico Hülkenberg. Very good result in the sprint, of course. Qualified amazingly well in the sprint, but disappointing qualifying in the main race. And yeah, it was a good performance. The Haas is just a very good car now, I think, based on where both drivers are putting it. So yes, a good drive from Nico Hülkenberg.
All right, I've gone for a 9 out of 10 for Nico Hülkenberg. The only sort of minor glitch in this weekend for me was the qualifying for the main race, but he finished best of the rest in 8th place in the main race and also scored a point in the sprint. So I'm not really sure what much more Nico Hülkenberg could have done.
Finish ahead of Magnussen in the sprint.
So that deserves 2 points dropped.
Well, yeah, it's not a perfect result, is it?
9's not perfect. Okay, I love it. We're combating all the way through here. But yeah, 9 out of 10 from me, and the fans gave him an 8.
If you're looking to create a stunning website, Squarespace is your go-to platform. It's an all-in-one solution that really empowers entrepreneurs. I've been using it myself, and let me tell you, the experience has been fantastic. One of my favourite features is design intelligence. It combines 2 decades of design expertise with AI, helping you craft a personalised website that truly reflects your brand. It's like having a design expert by your side. Then there's Squarespace Payments, where managing transactions is so simple. You can accept a variety of payment methods, making it super convenient for your customers. And let's not forget Blueprint AI. This tool helps you build a custom site in just a few clicks. It takes your basic info and transforms it into a beautifully designed website. If you want to give it a try, head to squarespace.com for a free trial. When you're ready to give it a go, check out squarespace.com/P1 to save 10% off your first purchase of a website or domain.
Our favourite one, Zhou Guan Yu, started the sprint in 19th, finished 19th, started the race in 18th, and finished 19th. That's not the greatest reading, is it? I've gone for a 3 out of 10 for Zhou. It wouldn't have been a 3 had he not just spun on his own at turn 1. That really did plummet him down the order because he was doing all right. He was up there in the mix, and then he wasn't. So for me, it's disappointing. He said himself afterwards that he carried too much speed into turn 1, hit a bump, and then it's pretty much game over. So sadly for him, it's a 3.
I have gone for a 2 out of 10 for Zhou Guan Yu. I'm going to be harsh because of just spinning out of nowhere on your own when he was doing a decent job. Completely unforced, shouldn't have happened. And he was slow, so the normal 3 out of 10 for being slow is downgraded to a 2 because he spun.
Wow, the fans gave him a 3. Valtteri Bottas started the sprint in 18th, finished 20th, started the main race in 16th, and finished 17th.
I've gone for a 5 out of 10 for Valtteri Bottas. Again, no, actually, sorry, editor. It's going to be a 6 out of 10 for Valtteri Bottas. Did out-qualify Lewis Hamilton. There's something. So I can't go right down the middle because he has comprehensively beaten his teammate. But, oh God, they are just so bad. Being at the track and being able to... At the track, you really get that kind of perception of the pecking order because you see the gaps, don't you, like physically as a car comes around. And it was just shocking how long you had to wait before the stakes came around. They are so bad.
I've gone for a 5 out of 10 for Valtteri Bottas. I think it's straight down the middle, really. I don't think he did anything particularly special. So for me, it's a 5 out of 10 because what more is there really to say about the stakes? And I do wonder if Bottas is getting slightly bored just driving around at the back, and whether he'll continue in Formula One at all is something that has yet to be decided. The fans also gave him a 5. Yuki Tsunoda started the sprint in 9th, finished in 11th, and started the main race in 10th and finished 14th. I have gone for a 6 out of 10 for Yuki Tsunoda. It was an okay weekend. I think that he will be kicking himself a little bit that he scored no points, and Lawson, who's not been driving the car for a while, comes in from the back and manages to score a couple. So yeah, the performance in the car was there, but it didn't work out for Yuki. So I've given him a 6.
I've also gone for a 6 out of 10 for Yuki Tsunoda. He qualified superbly well in both the sprint and the main race. He did a good job in qualifying, but yeah, it kind of went wrong in the main race for him quite badly with a 5-second penalty, spinning off as well, and I think the whole thing about Lawson as well coming from the back and doing a great job, which we'll get into next, is basically going to pile the pressure on him as well. So not the race that he would have wanted to have.
Okay, let's go to Liam Lawson next. Started the sprint in 15th, finished 16th, started the race in 19th after a 60-place grid penalty, and finished 9th.
I've gone for a 10 out of 10 for Liam Lawson. His main race was so good that it warrants a 10 overall, because that is the place where you can score points. So for him to do it as well from the back of the grid, as soon as that penalty came in, it must have been like, well, he's never going to score a point. Like, no chance. The pressure of going into this car after Daniel Ricciardo got ousted and people, his fans aren't very happy about it and wondering if it was the right decision. What more could you want? I genuinely think he'd have beaten Perez if he'd have had a proper qualifying. So for him to come through the field and score points, if he keeps doing that, he could be in the Red Bull next year.
Oh, spicy. I've also gone for a 10 out of 10 for Liam Lawson. The fact that he drove through the field with such command. This is a really important time, I think, for a driver when they enter Formula One, is to set the kind of standard and the personality as a driver as soon as you can, right? Because if you're seen as a bit of a pushover, that's how you'll be treated on the track. And I think Lawson, not afraid to make enemies with Fernando Alonso, for example, and he's willing to do what he needs to do to score points and to make positions up in the race. So for me, it was a stunning performance, and he silenced all the Daniel Ricciardo haters, I think, just from this one performance. What a way to start. And the fans also gave Lawson a 10. Franco Colapinto started the sprint in 10th, finished 12th, and started the main race in 15th and finished 10th. For Franco, I have gone for a 9 out of 10. It was an excellent weekend from Franco, especially when you look at where his teammate is, and he's pushing the car a little bit too much and making mistakes. To score a point in the main race, it's really, it's gutting, of course, that Colapinto doesn't look like he'll have a seat for next year, but I think 2026, he will definitely be in the market for a seat, and what a way to continue making a name for yourself.
Yep, I've gone for a 9 out of 10 for Franco Colapinto as well. The only reason it's not a 10 from me is because the potential that he showed in sprint qualifying, maybe he could have got a better result in the main qualifying, and then it would have put him in a better position, and maybe he could have even finished ahead of Lawson. But it was still an absolutely unbelievable race from him. I think if he keeps doing this, teams will not be able to ignore him.
The fans gave Franco Colapinto a 9. Alex Albon started the sprint from the pit lane, finished 17th, started the main race in 14th, finished 16th.
I have gone for a 2 out of 10 for Alex Albon. Don't really know how it could have got much worse for him in the race weekend. Having your teammate get through to Q3 when you've not even made Q1 in sprint qualifying was bad. But then to get into the main race, have a first lap collision. It's just it kind of all went wrong for him this weekend. And when Colapinto's in the points and you're finishing down in 16th, and then you're having a terrible sprint as well, it was a really, really poor weekend for Alex Albon.
I'm not going to be as harsh as a 2. I'm going to give him a 3 out of 10. It was still a poor weekend. In the main race, of course, he picked up damage at turn 1, which is the nature of the corner, but also he has a role to play, knowing that there are going to be cars that cut back in as well through turn 1, and obviously punts Ocon for there. And after that, his race is pretty much done and dusted. It is concerning, though, for sure. And I feel as though we're getting a bit of a a feel of maybe just how good that Williams car has been. We've not had a comparison available to us because Latifi and Sargent sadly just weren't good enough, and it was very clear to see almost the entirety of when they were teammates. Colapinto coming in, I think, is one, showing that Williams is pretty decent, and two, you can see that Albon is feeling the pressure here, and even with that punt with Ocon, maybe there's a slight urgency thinking, I need to make up some positions here and do a good job to get the headlines back towards me. So yeah, it's a 3 out of 10 for me for Albon, and the fans gave him a 4. Esteban Ocon started the sprint in 17th, finished 15th, started the main race in 12th, and finished 18th. I've gone for a 5 out of 10 for Esteban Ocon. He did not have the upgrades that Gasly did, so that's something to sort of take into account with the fact that he just wasn't as quick. Gasly was absolutely chefing, but sadly didn't get any points either. And then got punted by Albon. He managed to recover a few positions, he said, after the race. But look, if you're in an Alpine and you're getting punted at the first corner, it's pretty much done, isn't it? So 5 out of 10 from me.
Yep, I've also gone for a 5 out of 10 for Ocon, a very kind of middle of the road, back to normal for Alpine race. But I guess the positive for him is that Gasly looked great with the upgrades, and we know how similar those two are as teammates. So he'll be wanting to get them in ASAP.
The fans gave Ocon a 5 as well. Pierre Gasly started the sprint in 12th, finished 14th, started the main race in 6th, finished 12th.
I've gone for a 7 out of 10 for Pierre Gasly. His qualifying and where he put that car was pretty sensational. And he was unlucky not to score points, basically, with the strategy and the pit stop that he had. So I think the fact that, it's not really his fault as much, that he should have had a really good result in that car, and it's a proper what might have been, so I can't downgrade him too much for that. I've
also gone for a 7 out of 10 for Pierre Gasly. His pace was sensational, but to come away with no points, it looked set on that he was going to score 2, maybe 4 points. We weren't really sure, but to finish 12th is gutting, and I'm sure that he's also feeling quite bad about that. So yeah, it's still a 7 though, to sort of mark that he was driving pretty well and had great pace. The fans also gave Pierre a 7. Lance Stroll started the sprint in 13th, finished 13th, started the main race in 13th and finished 15th. 5 out of 10 for Lance Stroll. I think it's straight down the middle kind of performance from Lance. He drove better in the sprint than he did than his teammate Alonso, and then in the main race just lacked pace, and I feel like Lance always says that after the race, where they lacked pace compared to the other cars, but it's just straight down the middle 5 for me.
I've gone for a 4 out of 10 for Lance Stroll. Again, he's not had a terrible weekend, but qualifying again, I think, has let him down in the main race when you see where his teammate was. But they are very much in that mid-pack now and dropping back, which is not what we expect from Aston, despite, all the upgrades and money that's being pumped into the team.
Indeed, the fans gave Lance Stroll a 4. Fernando Alonso started the sprint in 14th, finished 18th, started the main race in 7th and finished 13th.
I've gone for a 5 out of 10 for Fernando Alonso, straight down the middle. I think it was a really good qualifying, but in the race, he's kind of dropped back. I think the stuff with Lawson from his side was maybe a bit silly, because the reason I love Fernando Alonso is he drives like that with other people. He's not afraid to get his elbows out, so when someone does it to him, but at the end of the day, F1 drivers are all hypocrites. They just want to get the maximum from their performance. So unfortunately for Alonso, just no pace in that Aston Martin anymore, which is a real shame.
I've gone for a 6 out of 10 for Alonso. That Aston Martin race pace is absolutely atrocious by the looks of things. But I just want to commend that, because I think it was a great qualifying from Alonso. It's a 6 out of 10 from me, and the fans gave him a 5. Oscar Piastri started the sprint in 16th, finished the sprint in 10th, started the main race in 5th, finished 5th. I've gone for a 6 out of 10 for Oscar Piastri. Slightly off colour, I would say, this weekend. Especially obviously the sprint, getting knocked out in Q1, which was quite the surprise considering he's in a McLaren. And then also in the main race was definitely lacking pace compared to his teammate. So I hope for Oscar's sake he bounces back and gets back to that scintillating speed that he had previously, but definitely slightly off colour this weekend.
Yeah, I've gone for a 6 out of 10 for Oscar Piastri as well. The reason it's a 6 is mainly for the disaster of the sprint. You know, if you have a track limits warning and you're out, it's so hard to make up those positions in such a short race, and that's exactly what happened. He couldn't, despite a great car advantage, he was never going to get up into 8th place. So no points in the sprint, but a decent finish in the main race.
The fans gave Oscar a 6 as well. Lando Norris started the sprint in 4th, finished 3rd, started the main race in 1st, finished 4th.
Lando Norris, I have gone for 7 out of 10. The reason it's a 7 is because he was still very quick, but I think this weekend in particular has been a really bad sort of moment for him in the championship to basically put one over on Max, or like the momentum that he had of taking points out of Max every single race, and he should have done it again. If Lando Norris's pace, which is his best asset, if he just had more kind of better wheel-to-wheel racing and a bit more ruthless and just like confidence in that side, he's like top tier driver. But unfortunately, we've kind of shown again that that's part of his game that hasn't delivered in. But I can't give him any lower because he's beaten Piastri on pace all weekend, and it's been still a good drive. So
I have gone for a 7 out of 10 as well. It's not good enough from a racecraft perspective from Lando. You look at the sprint and how Max dealt with defending turn 1 from pole, and then you look at what Lando did, and I just find it mystifying that Lando just doesn't do the carbon copy of what Max does. Instead, he gets the launch. He's ahead of Max. He can easily move over, but he doesn't. It's just such a shame from that perspective. And then, of course, the turn 12 thing. I do feel for Lando because, look, it's a moment where, like, Max just chefed him. Okay, it's as simple as that. Max knows the rules like no tomorrow. Lando felt like he was ahead going into turn 12, which in the braking zone he was, but that's not the rules. It's at the apex, and Max is the king of dive bombing into an apex to make sure he's half a car length ahead, which is exactly what he did. I'm not trying to slander Lando in the sense of he can't race wheel to wheel, but Max is one of the best at knowing just how far to push everything. He is one of the hardest, if not the hardest driver to overtake. So I feel for Lando in that side of things, because I think maybe 3/4 of the field he's able to pass in the way he was being very measured, very calculated. He needed a dive bomb. He needed a Daniel Ricciardo, last of the late breakers when he was at Red Bull, just send it. So yes, that's why it's a 7 out of 10. I still think it was a decent weekend, but it's a what could have been. Carlos Sainz started the sprint in 5th, finished 2nd, starting the main race in 3rd, finished 2nd. I've gone for a 9 out of 10 for Carlos Sainz. I think it was a brilliant weekend from him to get 2 second places in a weekend that nobody really put Ferrari in the mix of doing particularly well. He was tenacious, he was aggressive, and he was decisive with his moves, which is kind of what we wish Lando had done in the main race. Like, Carlos just sent it. He just sent it on Max, and that's what you need to do to really sort of get Max out of his robotic defenses that he's able to do. So yeah, Carlos was brilliant in the main race as well. Had things gone slightly better for him in terms of turn 1, he could have been the one to win that race.
I've gone for a 9 out of 10 for Carlos as well. You have to applaud Carlos and Charles the way they race each other. It's absolutely superb to watch. It's on the limit, and they are super aggressive, but it's still fair, and that's what I love about it. They were racing incredibly well, and yeah, Carlos was amazing in that, and then unlucky that it was Charles that was the one that basically got that dream run while Max pushed Lando wide, and Carlos had to kind of slot in behind Max. But then he had the pace to be able to beat Max, in the pit stops and just deliver another fantastic and strong result. So really good weekend from Carlos.
The fans gave Carlos a 9 as well. Charles Leclerc started the sprint in 3rd, finished 4th, started the main race in 4th, finished 1st.
It is a 10 out of 10. Just superb to go from 4th to win. And as soon as he was in the lead, it literally was never in doubt. Just drove the perfect race, didn't put a foot wrong. it's just a brilliant drive. You know, he got into the lead, and it was just plain sailing there. But that's to his credit. You know, he made it look easy, but it was a great drive.
Keep going. No, I'm kidding. I have also gone for a 10 out of 10. No surprise. As soon as he took the lead, there was not one hint of a fault in the way he drove all the way to the last lap. So yeah, it was a perfect drive. There's not really much more to say. He dominated from the front, and very happy to see him win. Such a shame that he's so far behind Max and Lando, otherwise it'd be very tasty. But Ferrari, with that points haul, could well win the Constructors' Championship, and that is a battle that is going to be tasty all the way down to the wire. The fans gave Charles a 10 as well. George Russell started the sprint in second, finished 5th, started the race from the pit lane and finished 6th. I've gone for an 8 out of 10 for George Russell. I think it was a really good drive from him. The sprint, he was in the mix and fell away quite rapidly, I think, where he blew up his tyres, but still P5 was not too bad. And then to come from the pit lane to beating Perez, I think that says more about Perez's drive, but still to finish 6th, I think was a really good drive, considering the Mercedes is so difficult to drive. His teammates binning it in the gravel like that, and when have you ever seen Hamilton just lose it and get beached in the gravel? You hardly ever see that. So George, I think, did a great drive, a recovery drive to finish 6th, and yeah, that's why I've given him an 8 out of 10.
I've gone for a 7 out of 10 for George Russell. What might have been if he'd have started at the front, because his drive was really good and kind of came back. In the main race, yeah, the Mercedes clearly wasn't great this weekend. So yeah, I think it's the fact that George spun off and damaged his car, which will be unfortunate for him, because it's, again, something kind of in his career that he needs to kind of stamp out of. But yeah, a great drive, recovery drive in the main race as well.
George Russell got an 8 from the fans. Lewis Hamilton started the sprint in 7th, finished 6th, started the main race in 17th and did not finish.
I have gone for a 2 out of 10 for Lewis Hamilton. I think Hamilton is one of those drivers where, for him being in the sport for so long, he's got a very short compilation of big errors. He doesn't have many of them. It's very rare to happen to him. So yeah, just a disaster of a weekend, has to be said, to spin off so early in the race as well. Yeah, his only saving grace is the sprint result.
It certainly is. I've also gone for a 2 out of 10 for Hamilton. That is the main reason he scored a few points in the sprint, so that's why it's not a 1 or a 0, because yeah, the race was, the whole, the main race weekend part of it, qualifying was a disaster, getting knocked out in Q1, and then not finishing in the main race, so you can't really save his blushes any more than finishing 6th in the sprint. So 2 out of 10 from us. The fans also gave him a 2. Sergio Perez started the sprint in 11th, finished 9th, started the main race in 9th, finished 7th. Ooh, I've gone for a 4 out of 10 for Sergio Perez. It's just another poor weekend in comparison to his teammates. I know it's the norm, but I can't give him any higher than that, because it's the norm that he's this far behind Verstappen. I think it was 35 odd seconds that he finished behind Max in the end, and that's considering as well the battling that Lando and Max were doing towards the end. So that Red Bull, as much as it was quick in qualifying, and Max showed that with pole position in the sprint, the race pace isn't really there, and Perez is what just accentuated that. So yeah, it's a 4 from me.
I have gone for a 4 out of 10 as well for Sergio Perez. Should have been scoring a point in the sprint when finishing behind 2 Hasses. And then in the main race, he's bagged some points. But again, he was racing the RBs. He was racing Tsunoda, and you've got to think, if Lawson, like I said, with Lawson's grade, I think that would have really stung if Lawson had been able to actually qualify and not had his grid penalty. Probably would have beaten Perez in the race, and what an image that would have been, having Lawson passing Perez, because he was close and he was coming for him at the end. So yeah, another disaster for Perez, really.
The fans gave Perez a 4 as well. Max Verstappen started the sprint in 1st, finished the sprint in 1st, started the main race in 2nd and finished 3rd.
I've gone for a 9 out of 10 for Max Verstappen. He almost makes certain things look so easy. The sprint, you look at it and go, oh, he just won from lights to flag. But then you get to the race the next day and you saw what Lando did at the start. And I think they mentioned on commentary that I think 5 of the last 6 people on pole position hadn't led into the first corner. But Max just kind of made that look so simple that you don't even think about it, that he managed to stay ahead. And then in the main race, of course, it's controversial the way he drives, but until they change the rules, we've seen it before, like late defensive moves, they changed it. Oh, you can't go side by side under the safety car, they changed it. He'll keep doing this until they say, no, you can't do that anymore. And then they'll change the rules and he'll find some other way to sort of do it. And it's not a popular thing with fans because, he's controversial. Maybe people don't think it's very sporting, but he's there to win, not make friends. And that's why he's such a good driver.
I've also gone for a 9 out of 10 for Max Verstappen. I know that fans feel aggrieved, especially McLaren fans, Lando fans, about how Max drove. But look, he knows that you have to be half a car length ahead at the apex, and that's exactly what he did to a T. That is one discussion of, okay, who was ahead? Max was ahead at the apex, therefore it's technically his corner, and then pushing him wide and going off the track with Lando, as Anthony Davidson so brilliantly described in the sort of Sky post-race show was how that is a separate thing. Them going off the track is, okay, Max gets a warning for track limits for going off, and then Lando gets a penalty for literally driving round Max off the track as well. It's 2 separate things that are being measured there. Do I think that it should be tweaked, the rules? I think so. From a Max Verstappen dive bombing into the apex and the driver not having any right to any space, I don't think is right, because it doesn't promote the best racing, in my opinion. Max uses it to his advantage brilliantly, but I want to see more side-by-side action. I feel like Lando did deserve space in an ideal world where I make my own Formula One rules. But sadly, that's not the case. Lando's pushed wide, then he goes past, gets a penalty, but that is what is written, sadly. So yes, a 9 from both of us, and the fans gave him a 9 as well. So finally, who is our P1? Okay, so my P1 is gonna be Charles Leclerc, because I think it was a brilliant race. And look, I think in any other realm where Charles Leclerc doesn't get a 10, I'm giving Lawson the 10. But I need to enjoy the fact Charles delivered a 10. So there we go.
Yeah, and I'm going to go for Lawson because I think it is a massive statement. Daniel Ricciardo, the controversy of him leaving, he had a great opportunity, didn't he, to go into the Red Bull. Christian Horner pretty much said it himself. It's like, if you deliver, you get the Red Bull seat. And unfortunately for him, he didn't. And I know it's only one race for Lawson, but you could not have picked a better start for him.
Fair play to Lawson, definitely. And that is it. We're done. Please leave a like if you've enjoyed this driver ratings.
Please leave a like.
Video.
Leave a like.
Tommy's begging now, that's crazy. But thank you so much to everybody that, as I said, came to the US tour. It was really awesome. Tickets will be available for the UK one in the middle of December. Hell yeah, we'll see you very soon. Lots of love. Final thoughts, Tommy?
Final thoughts.
I forgot.
I'm sure you're going to drop a like on this video because you enjoy driver ratings, and we can all just agree to disagree.
Perfect. Take care.
Bye.
Lots of love. Bye.
Our F1 driver ratings for the...
You have to give me some...
Oh, that's going to have to go in the end.